Writing a compelling crime drama that stands out in such a saturated market is not easy. There are so many options to choose from, and with streaming more accessible than ever, competition is fierce. Whether it be the numerous Sherlock spin-offs, we get every year original breakaway hits like Mare of Easttown or one of the many Scandinavian miniseries like The Chestnut Man. Honestly, that show is fantastic. Add it to your watch list. It's hard for newcomers to stand out. In a way, Dept is in an unenviable spot. The story is pretty formulaic and feels like a mashup of what's come before, and it's also dumped in one hit on Netflix, giving it a bit of a do-or-die flavor. However, beyond its relatively simplistic story is a show that boasts excellent production design, atmosphere, and characterization, all of which help it stand out from the masses. Created by Scott Frank, the brilliant mind behind The Queen's Gambit, and with a stable foundation coming in the form of the book series. As source material, Netflix may just have struck gold with this one if it can attract a sizable enough audience. Dept's story whisks us off to the moody, miserable setting of Edinburgh, where we follow Detective Chief Inspector Carl Mork, a brilliant but emotionally scarred officer recovering from a traumatic ambush that left his partner paralyzed and another officer dead. Relegated to a newly formed cold case unit in the police department's basement, Mork assembles a team of misfits to take on an old case involving the disappearance of prosecutor Merritt Lingard, who vanished from a ferry 4 years prior. As the team delves deeper, they uncover a chilling conspiracy and psychological trauma that test their limits. The episodes interweave the investigation into Merritt's disappearance with Carl's shooting at Leith Park, but it's worth noting that there isn't actually any closure to the shooting. You can see the creator's intention to leave this thread open-ended for a potential second season, which hasn't been confirmed at the time of writing, but it's not too much of a detriment given the way this one ends and how it's handled. It's very much a secondary plot, and one could argue it's used as a way of exploring Carl's trauma and allowing him to grow as a person. The story regularly jumps between past and present, and early on, we learn what happened to Merritt. Structure of the story then shifts to focus on why and how this occurred, rather than drawing out the mystery of whether she's alive. It's an interesting framing device, but unfortunately, it's hard not to feel like the series shows its hand. Way too early. In fact, anyone who has watched a lot of crime thrillers is likely to figure out what's happening as early as episode 3. Not in complete detail, of course, because the show does work in some lovely twists, but I can't help but feel tighter. Framing, rather than wide angles and establishing shots, may have been a better option. While the story isn't Dept's strongest asset, the show leans heavily on character work, and that's where it truly shines. Matthew Good's portrayal of DCI Carl Mork is excellent, adding the right balance of snarky sarcasm, rule-breaking, and anti-authority vibes alongside a darker, more emotionally scarred interior that he's keeping from those around him. Carl has a really solid arc across the season, punctuated by important moments at the start and end of the show that feel like mirrors of the same incident, sandwiched around a lot of growth and exploration of inner demons. The series also flirts with the idea of a romance between Carl and his therapist, Rachel, but to be honest, it's not handled particularly well. The banter between them is quite strong, though, which only makes the decision to half-heartedly pursue this angle all the more baffling. However, one of the more interesting players here is Alexei Manvilov's portrayal of Syrian character Akram. He's very much the dark horse of the ensemble and bounces off Carl really well across the 9 episodes. Rounding out the trio is Rose. While she starts out as a bit player, she becomes more deeply involved in the investigation as the episodes progress. She has her own trauma to process, and the show handles this well, letting her development unfold in a way that never overshadows the main mystery or feels tacked on. The rest of the supporting cast do well in their roles, and it's just as well because many of the sets are quite uninspired despite being dressed well. We're largely working with dingy interiors, and that's by design. This is a dark, gritty crime thriller that's less interested in sweeping vistas, despite a few establishing shots showing off Scotland's gorgeous natural landscapes, and more focused on the gritty details of the case itself. In that respect, Dept establishes itself as a comfortable and relatively straightforward thriller, with enough red herrings and twists to try and keep you guessing until the conclusion. Again, Your mileage with this one will probably vary, but this is not a show to binge in a single day. The episodes are long and often padded with proper investigative work. The investigation can, and does, go down wrong paths or take unexpected turns, often as a way of developing characters or helping them learn lessons. At one point, for example, Rose believes she's managed to link a bird insignia to a past case, tying everything together with a neat little bow. In reality, this is a big reach, and she's called out for it. These little moments aren't insulting to viewers or presented as wasted time. Rather, they serve as lessons for our team, reminders to stick to the basics and avoid assumptions. Another. Time. Carl chooses Rose to butter up a male constable, bluntly leaning into the femme fatale angle. Again, it's a small inclusion, but one that feels grounded in the way these sorts of interviews might realistically play out. Episodes 8 and 9 work in tandem to tie up loose ends, deliver key flashbacks, and clarify any lingering mysteries surrounding the Merritt Lingard case. There are a few cliches that pop up along the way, but they're easy to overlook. Even with its issues, Dept is a solid crime thriller. It's clearly been designed as a springboard to try and capture a bigger audience hungry for a consistent series that can run for many seasons to come. It's gritty, grounded, and boasts some strong characterization. Based on what's here and the way the season ends, there's definitely more fuel in the tank, with Dept standing out as one of the best crime thrillers of the year.